Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Wednesday, October the 8th, 2025. And today we are doing one of our fun Wednesday interviews, this time with guests Ian McSweeney, co-founder and co-director of the Farmers Land Trust and the Farmland Commons, and one of the landowners they work with, Julian Lauzzana, to sort of explain what the process is like and how it works in terms of land trusts. And it's very cool. When we talk about collaborative farm models and land access opportunities, which I think is very important, this is a great example of what it can look like. So I'm excited to share the work of Farmers Land Trust with you all today. So let's do it. All right, Julian and Ian, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks for having us, Jesse.
Oh, yeah, and I'm super glad to have you. I'm very excited about this conversation because I think it's like, I don't know, this is just an interesting thing that's happening more in agriculture, and we're going to flesh that out a little bit. So I thought maybe we could just start with having each of you introduce yourselves individually. Like, let's just start with you, Ian. Why don't you just kick us off? Who are you and who are you representing?
Yeah, happy to, Jesse. So yeah, I'm Ian McSweeney. I live in southern New Hampshire. I'm a dad, a father, son, a farmland owner that's long leased out our farm to local growers. And I, for 25 years now, have worked in farmland conservation, farmland ownership, stewardship, tenure work in philanthropy and nonprofit sectors, all to kind of help in that transition of farmland towards community ideals.
Cool. And then Julian, why don't you give us a little introduction?
All right, yeah. So I'm collaborating with Ian to bring about a farmland commons. I've been doing some land management. I own various parcels in Southwest Michigan and running them as community homesteads. So everything from work trade arrangements to, more formal leases. So I've been doing that since 2011. Grew up in an urban context. And right around that time, made a deep dive into rural living. So I kind of jumped into the rural living without knowing much about it. I have no background in it. I do now, but I didn't when I started. I basically am working to increase density in these parcels to improve quality of life, so it's not so much work and so lonely. I think is really a state of farming now. With one person who's farming thousands of acres and in this massive tractor and working to have reasonable margins. So what I do is really not farming, but it's more community homesteading is the word I put on it.
Yeah.
Collaborating with the Farmers Land Trust.
Yeah, and maybe I think we should introduce that a little bit. Maybe Ian, if you would kind of introduce the Farmland Commons and kind of that, what those are.
Yeah, happy to. So the Farmers Land Trust is a national nonprofit land trust that Christina Villana and I co-founded 2 years ago now. And we are primarily focused on bringing about this Farmland Commons model. That this model, Farmland Commons model, is a community-centered, nonprofit landholding structure. And some of this, for me, comes from some past work where I collaborated with to secure land and bring tenure to this Temple Wilton farm. That was one of the first two founding CSA farms in the U.S. in the modern movement. And they'd created a very viable, successful relationship with community that sustained and kind of helped grow and evolve their farm business in so many ways, but they didn't own the land they were on. And so I helped them acquire that land and bring it into a nonprofit ownership. And that point really stuck with me going forward, that one, if one of these two founding CSAs struggled with land tenure and land security, so many other farmers are too. So that piece on one hand. On the other hand, that farming requires farmland and farmers. It also really requires community to be resilient, and especially at times of transition, especially at times of growth and evolution. So for this farmland commons model that we created, it uses this limited scope nonprofit structure to both bake into the structure a collaboration of multiple nonprofit entities to hold the land, the real estate itself, and then to support, collaborate, and build relationship with the farmers on the ground. So it's both getting at those challenges of farming can be lonely, and farming as a pursuit needs more than just the individual, it needs community. But it also gets at that piece of farmland is expensive. It's out of reach for so many. Farmland, even to transition from a successful farm to the next, is financially a huge challenge. So using a nonprofit vehicle allows donations, it allows philanthropic benefits to be utilized in ways that lowers that cost of entry for farmers, and it lowers the cost of long-term sustainable farm businesses being carried forward on the ground. So Christina and I created this Farmland Commons model. We've been cultivating, incubating conversations with community partners around the country that are farmland owners, farmers, nonprofits, and others that really want to see this model come to be. And so we have 7 different locations around the country. Southwest Michigan is one of them. We're also working in San Juan Islands in Washington State, the Driftless region in Wisconsin, Southeast Ohio, Baltimore, Maryland, Eastern Tennessee, and Southern Arizona. And so diverse group of people involved, diverse group of landscapes and communities, and all of it's developing that collaboration, developing that community to hold these shared goals around farming, farmland stewardship, management, and farm viability, and the connection, the relationships we hold.
Julian, I'm curious, how you came to find this. It sounds like this kind of fits into your bio, like the things that you were talking about earlier, but how did this come about for you to be involved with this?
Yeah. So it was at a biodynamic conference in Colorado, in fact, where I met Ian and Christina. And they had a breakout session that I attended, session that I attended, which was definitely inspiring, but it was really Christina's, I don't know if it was the plenary, but it was the grand finale of the conference. And it was the whole morning was queued up from some other impressive talks. And she literally had me in tears. I was with my daughters, and
Me too.
it was, it just hit home, a lot of the framework of how I've been doing things is very simple, but it doesn't get to the heart of, let's say, the problem. It just seemed like a way to more fully manifest what I've been trying with quite a bit of stress and, struggles in terms of that, just falling back into, well, it's try as I will to be equitable and distribute everything and be fair. And if it's one person who's on the deed, it just always comes back to people looking at me and looking for either guidance or that I'm the man. I'm like the guy who's in charge, and I don't always really want to be that guy.
Interesting. So it kind of provided a framework for a sort of collaboration for you
to more fully do what I've been doing already, and to do it in a context, in a framework that is more in alignment with the actual goal. A bit more complicated. So I'm really interested to see how it plays out and participate and be a part of a group process in many different ways.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to pause you there because that is something I want to talk about in the second segment is what the actual technical details of the involvement are. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will do exactly that. So BRB.
Farmer Claire Coleman here from the Winter Growers Podcast. Did you know that I also founded Real Farmer Care, a nonprofit that supports farmer well-being? From my own experiences farming, I knew firsthand that this type of support was missing from ag, so I decided to do something about it. As of today, there are over 500 farmer recipients of a $100 self-care award, with more applying daily. If you'd like to help, each $100 donated supports one new farmer. Visit realfarmercare.com to donate and learn more. Again, that's realfarmercare.com.
All right. So first, Ian, tell us, how landowners get involved with, the farmland commons. Like, what is the technical path to that?
Sure, really. Well, and to expand a little bit, all of our work is taking place where we are invited into this work. So, we connect with people, build relationship, and then there's some alignment there. There's some kind of belief that shared work is better. And so we're asked into collaboration in these different places. And so for us, that invitation comes from many different sources. It can come from farmers who are needing land or not having enough land or not having land security and needing that land security to operate their business or grow their business in different ways. It comes from organizations, nonprofits, land trusts, others that talk about land access for farmers, talk about the transition of farmland, and now tangibly want to do something about it beyond the talk. And it comes from landowners. And landowners are really kind of two groups generally. One are those that are farming the land they're on, and those are really split into two groups, interestingly, in our work right now at least. One is like the elder farmer who has been on the ground for decades or generations and cares deeply about the land and does not want to leave the land and can't farm anymore, or sees the future where they are not able to farm. And so many of them don't want to leave the farm at all. We have this one project in the San Juan Islands in Washington where the farm couple is retaining a life estate. They're going to live out in the house until they pass away. They're then retaining the right to be buried on the farm. Like, they don't want to leave this land. And what they want to do is be part of the land long into the future. And they want this land to continue to be stewarded and continue to grow in the ways that they've set the foundation. Like, they took a piece of raw land and developed a biodynamic homestead and have operated that for 50 years. And their hope is that someone's going to carry that forward with the same heart and intentions they did. And so there's that group of farmers that are elder and want to see what they've done continue. There's also younger farmers. We have a farmer who's 28 years old who just recently acquired his farm, and he's seen many of his mentors and elders who he gets his rootstock for his food forest production. Their farms have been lost. Like, they pass away or a life event happens, the farm has to be sold. The first thing that happens are these trees are cut, soil is plowed up, bagged, sold at Home Depot. He doesn't want to put a life into something knowing that might be the future for it. So he, at 28 years old, is donating his farm in because he wants peace of mind and security that what he's going to spend his life doing has a future beyond him. And there's others, that community, who will care for it as he did, both care for the land and care for the relationships of who will be the next steward there. So there's those farming landowners, and then there's the kind of deeply caring, deeply connected landowners like Julian, who have farmed, who have stewarded land, who have brought together land for community efforts, for, saving farms that might have been developed or lost from farming in different ways, and wanting to bring people into the fold to be part of the wealth of the land, and yet, like, sees a need for greater structure, sees a need for deeper collaboration or more collaboration, or there's something that really tunes them into the model where they see they can go further in relationship and collaboration to continue to carry forward the vision and goals they have. And so by moving their land in to a farmland commons, they're trading the ownership for relationships and broader community in ways that just allow that work to continue.
Julian, can you talk a little bit about that process, what that process has been like on a more technical front? Like, if you're a farm if you're a landowner, farm owner right now, and you're looking at this, like maybe, and I love the thing about farm succession. I think that's a really interesting note, thinking about people who don't want to see their land, don't necessarily have an heir, but don't want to see their land, go into, another housing complex or something. So I appreciate that side. But can you talk a little bit about the sort of technical side there, Julian?
I've got 2 properties in Kalamazoo, one in Bangor, which was my first when I moved back to the area, and one here in South Haven. So the order was the Bangor place in 2011, then Kalamazoo, which are like suburban, densely planted suburban lots where the neighbors complain because there's food and medicine growing everywhere. And I'm like, which plant is a pest? Tell me, and I'll tell you what I'm using it for. So they haven't got me on anything yet. But and then this South Haven place is like a full-on farm production site. So within those, the Bangor property is the one that is going into the Farmland Commons. The other ones, over time, will likely go in there as well. And the South Haven place is large enough to most likely subdivide into a few lots, and then determining what makes sense in terms of utilizing the equipment, the food production equipment for all of those properties on site here. So as a kind of a food hub to produce a lot of value-added foods for the winter. The technical aspect of it, I'm working with a real estate lawyer here in Michigan. And it should be next week where the deed is actually going to be transferred to Farmers Land Trust. And then from there, we will begin the process of getting the board, getting it into the 501c25, if I have it correct. So that's a process which certainly Ian and Christina can speak to more eloquently than I am. But at that point, I'm actually like handing the deed off as a gift to the Farmers Land Trust. So I'm really putting my trust in them. They can do what they want at this point. It's an act of trust because I believe in what they're doing.
But you'll be, just in terms of that trust part, you said that you would be creating a 501c25, and maybe you can speak to this, Ian. What would the landowner's involvement be, or could it be, in this situation where you're transitioning it to a 501c25, and then they are basically starting like a nonprofit that they are become a part of the board? Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Totally, yeah, and really, there's many different ways this can play out. So it's really, specific to the people involved and their goals of staying involved, engaging or not. And we have people on different sides of the spectrum of that, really in part because everyone's different, and in part because our goal is to show this model can work differently with different people. But, specific to our work together, Julian and I and Christina and everyone else involved is that, so we met, we developed a relationship, we've been exploring kind of what a transition of land might look like. And so that's part of the technical, is that just the real estate transition of ownership from private property into the nonprofit land trust structure, and the title coming into there, where, many other land trusts that people might be aware of work with conservation easements. So they're protecting the land, holding certain rights, but not the ownership. Our work is directly focused on the ownership, to address the ownership disparities, to address head-on access, equity, and tenure in farmland. So real estate transition is part of it. But then the bigger kind of part that, Julian, you're just touching on is that community collaboration, and that you asked about, Jesse, is that, right, for Julian, he is intimately involved now and will continue to be and wants to be. Some people don't want to be, but really, so for Julian, it's Julian and myself and Christina and others finding the right appropriate nonprofit partners, at least 2 other nonprofits, to join the Farmers Land Trust, to come together and use the resources. We have template bylaws and lease and management plans and everything on our website now. We start with those as a template baseline. So we bring together relationship of nonprofits, and Julian is landowner, gifter. And we use the template bylaws and shared agreements to develop what's appropriate for that community, for the people involved, and what's legally sound in the state we're operating in, because there's great state differences in lease and ownership structures. So we work through that process. That is generally a virtual process where we meet virtually for conversations. We're working in a Google Doc to update these templates, getting them to the point that our in-state attorney supporting this can then incorporate the structure. And that structure, the 501c25, first is incorporated as a state entity wherever it's operating. So in Michigan, we will incorporate a nonprofit entity. And then from there, we file for IRS 501c25 status. That's a federal designation. So it's a two-step process, state to state. Some states are quite quick in that state incorporation. Federally, IRS can take some time. Some people have experience of a few months to get nonprofit designated at the federal level. Some people have a year plus. So it's somewhat of that wait time is an unknown. But really, it does take a fair amount of time to bring together those people, organizations, and to work through these documents, in part to get the documents just right to meet everyone's needs, but in a bigger part that these documents and the reading them together, that the working through them together helps to kind of build or strengthen those shared values and vision. And so, they're updated to meet the needs of the people on the ground, but in reading and talking through them, it gets us all on the same page. And in doing that, we're creating this entity that includes all of our values and visions. And then once that entity is created, the land transfers from us, the Farmers Land Trust, or in some cases, another land trust, 501c3 that first takes in the land, transfers from that 501c3 that's part of the structure into that local 501c25. And at that point, 501c25 holds title to the land. They then take over leaseholder relationship and the lease agreement with the lease party. And, for us specific here, with this Bangor farm, a early stage step we are focused on is finding the right leaseholder, finding the right stewards, and bringing the right people onto the land to give them security, to have them be part of this collective work with us. So it's, landowner Julian, it's leaseholder to be, it's organizations, Farmers Land Trust, and other nonprofits that all really come together to form this structure and incorporate the entity and then operate this entity.
I think that's really fascinating. Just the idea of, it going into basically a nonprofit being the landowner. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will discuss how to get involved on the farmer's side of things. Be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Farmhand. Renewal season is here, and the work you put in now is what brings members back next year. Ari Memar, founder of Farmhand and a guest you've heard on this podcast, has worked with regenerative farmers to create a playbook that turns renewal season into a growth season. One farmer, Melanie at Shake Fork Community Farm, brought in $40,000 in renewals in just 2 weeks using this strategy. Now, Ari and Melanie are sharing the exact approach in a free live workshop and downloadable playbook. Watch on demand and get the playbook at farmhand.partners/no-till. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. All right, back to the show. All right, so maybe, Julian, if you want to start on this one, give us an idea of how farmers, what you envision in terms of farmers being involved with this particular project. You've kind of outlined it a little bit, but give us the goal or the overall vision in your mind of what you want to see this place become.
Yeah, so in the particular context of the Bangor property, because as Ian was saying, I think each property, each arrangement is unique, and the Bangor property has a rich history that can be discovered. There's a podcast and a book called Stronger Kinship, I believe. Anna Louisa Cox wrote a book, and there's a podcast. But basically, the Bangor Covert Highway, which is runs along between those two towns, was a powerful, emancipated area where a lot of black folks had farms and were represented in local politics well before it was even like federally acceptable. And basically, they got along great with the settlers, the pioneers. It was a really empowered area. So there's a lot of like very large African American families who are in this stretch. And I don't know the demographics, but I think it's been hard for them over the years to hold on. There's a few that are really doing a great job. Barbara Norman and the Mitchell family come to mind. But this property, I didn't really know about it, but I had kind of a mystical experience, and I'll maybe bookmark that one. But I found out after the fact that the Parker family had been residing there, Albert and Dorothea Parker. And I was visited by the descendants and the family of the Parker family a few times that came to the property, and they were really excited to see me doing the work and stewarding, because it had been left for a while. Everybody moved to the city, basically. I said, you could have a family reunion here, because they were remembering Albert with his hogs and, the whole scene. And so I invited them to have a family reunion there, but they haven't returned, or I haven't seen them again. So for me, this particular context, to honor that tradition or that history is paramount for this particular property. And I think we all resonate on that, Ian, Christina, and myself. So that's almost a non-negotiable, basically to focus on people within the community, African-American folks who are interested in taking up. It's not really a traditional farm. There's food and medicine all over the property, but it's not like an open field that's tilled and everything. So somebody who would want a particular type of food forestry kind of arrangement. There are places for gardens and stuff, but for me, that property is calling for that particular alignment. So that's where my wishes are with it, and to collaborate with them on the food production side and then the events. It's a really a magical, almost like a retreat from the people who have come from the urban environment. When they arrive, it's like it's a healing kind of process to even a weekend to come and learn about the plants, and then again take back some food and medicine to the city, or to potentially become a land steward.
Ian, maybe you can get us into the technical details of like becoming a land steward in this regard. Like the board finds a farmer or a land steward of some sort that is interested, or vice versa. Maybe the land steward finds the commons. How do they get involved in, or is there, I'm assuming there's several different paths to that, but can you kind of, illuminate that a little bit for us?
Yeah, fully. So, right. There are several different paths. Sometimes we are without a farmer, and we're putting out a request for proposals to find farmers, and then people are applying, and there's a committee to vet those applicants, and then a decision-making process happens. And that happened with our work in Ohio, where it was almost a year-long process to, advertise for, take in interest, select who is the best fit, and then make that decision. So that's one end of the spectrum of that kind of more public side. The other end would more be that, right, farmer steward finds this work, or that we find them through relationships, and that plays out in a few different ways. But more broadly, this Farmland Commons model for us, and that collaboration of multiple nonprofits, part of the reason for that collaboration is that we believe there's benefits to local and regional and national, that it should not be a binary choice of local or national, or, how can they work together? So with multiple nonprofits involved, we're baking in a national nonprofit like us, the Farmers Land Trust, with local nonprofits and regional nonprofits. So through that, farmers and others hear about this work, some from local nonprofits through the relationships they have and events or activities they might engage in where they come in contact with people involved with one of these farmland commons. Other times it's through national outreach that we do, like a podcast like this. Like people will hear this all over the country and might be inspired and then want to learn more. And they go to our website and then they learn about the project and then they reach out and contact us that way. And so that's a big part of it. The other part, like because we're a national organization and we work all around the country, like we have these networks of relationships in farm communities across the country that from present work now with the Farmland Commons and prior work done, we, Christina and I, will have created these commons in 19 different states across the country over the last 6 years. So, and it's land, it's people, and it's community. So we have community relationships across the country in different ways. So we can reach out to those relationships and share the opportunities for leaseholding farmers, opportunities for nonprofits to get involved. Like we can kind of cultivate interest from our network of relationships and bring people into the fold. But then ultimately, like if farmer steward is interested, like the initial details are on our website. The template documents provide the lease template starting point, the management plan template. So they can look at those and see like some of the general kind of values and structure and agreements that are going to be in place, and then know that they will be part of creating the final version of that. So, many farmers, stewards, they find out about the model in some way, they look online, dig into some of the details, they then just reach out, have a conversation or two, get their initial questions answered, dive back into the template lease to learn more. And then kind of once there's a, clarity that there's an interest and alignment, it's then connecting them into those who are local. So in this case, like, if we, the Farmers Land Trust, are connected with or find farmer for the Bangor farm, connecting them and Julian together to walk the land, to spend time together and to begin to connect in that way would be the next step.
That's very cool. I look forward to pointing people towards the Farmer Land Trust and everything else that you all are doing. Maybe if you want to, Ian, give us a few ideas on how to find your work.
Yeah, happy to. So really, our website is a great place. By the time this conversation is published, we will have just launched this Farmland Commons work out into the world. We're launching it September 30th. So, as that date forward, we will have stories and detail and content on each of these Farmland Commons. We'll have the ability to sign up for individual newsletters for individual Farmland Commons, as well as our general newsletter. So, look on our website, sign up for whatever or as many newsletters as of interest, follow us on social media, reach out for conversation in many ways. And then also, we are doing all of this work as a nonprofit organization that depends upon support of community. So in the same way that I kind of named the CSA model and that inspiration for me, like what is needed in this work is building a community of people who come forward with interest in learning more, but also who come forward with willingness to support this work in some way.
Very cool. Ian and Julian, thank you so much for your all's time.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
All right, I hope you all enjoyed that interview. We will put all the relevant links in the show notes for how to find both the work of the Farmers Land Trust and Farmland Commons, plus Julian's project, Earth and Heart Farmland Commons, in the show notes. Otherwise, that is it for this Wednesday. Don't forget, No-Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors, and if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at no-tillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music and Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. I feel like I'm going to get a drink of water while you hear it. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at no-tillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of October, you get a shout out in the show. So big shout outs today to our earthworms from last month, Catherine Brady and Chapman Beekman. Still loves it. That's the bounciest name I think we have. So shouts to them for keeping this story going this week. As you will recall, yesterday, our heroine, Mary Ann, spent her first day on the boat trying to figure out what was going on and how it worked, and it failed. So eventually, she just kind of finally ran out of energy and fell asleep. The next morning, there's another passenger, another woman, and soon Mary Ann learns another water hater. This woman's story, let's call her Sarah, is that she grew up near one of the Great Lakes and spent a lot of the time growing up on boats, but similar to Marianne, had a bad experience on one, falling into the water and having to be rescued, and she never really wanted to get back in the water or on the boat after that. But lucky for Marianne, Sarah did understand some things about boats from her childhood, but it had been a long time. However, she got the sail up and kind of functioning, and then, even though neither of them knew where they were headed, they were on the move. And we will pick up the story tomorrow, provided we get some Patreon signups, on Come Sail Away. That's not my best. But anyway, we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks for watching and or listening. Bye.